21st Century Archmage. Author, Kim Gwang-soo. Chapter 31. First Flight. Hold onto the practice airplate you have been issued properly until the end of the training. It may not be up to par with Sky Knight gear, but each one of them costs tens of thousands of gold. So, this is an airplate? I was holding a practice airplate. It was an elaborate iron armor enspelled with weight, lightning magic. Underneath the iron was soft leather that protected a person's whole body, including their fingers and toes. It's pretty light. Though the armor looked fairly heavy, it felt like it might barely reach 10 kilos in weight. Because it will not be used in battle, the practice airplates do not have defense spells or mithril content. However, they are fundamentally enspelled with fly for your safety in case of an emergency. Viscount Atwan's loud voice rang out in the drill hall in front of the sleeping quarters. Jay, what the heck? Not even my family soldiers would wear something like this. I miss my armor at home. Some rich brats in the back complained with a cheeky attitude. They really acted like they had skills, despite having none. So if you wear airplate armor, you won't feel hot or cold. Huh. Rain or snow, Sky Knights had to fly atop their wyverns. Even a fifth circle mage or blade knight would be unable to endure long periods of cold or heat. Therefore, airplates were invented. A miraculous armor difficult to make with 21st century science was produced using the omnipotent strength that was magic. From now on, until training ends, you must wear your airplates at all times, except when you sleep. Then everyone put them on now. Even if Viscount Awan hadn't said anything, I was curious about what wearing an airplate felt like. Tossing my cloak to the ground, I equipped the armor on top of my cadet uniform. It's light and comfortable enough to put it on without the help of an attendant. The practice airplates have been made in all sorts of sizes. The helmet, torso, legs, and arms are all separate pieces. If you draw your mana, the armor will automatically be equipped, explained Viscount Atwan amiably. I drew a little mana, and the separated pieces clicked together as if bound by magnets. Wow, not even a little wind can get through. Despite being made for training purposes, I couldn't help but admire the airplate's performance. First of all, it was comfortable. Thanks to temperature control magic regulating the inside of the suit, it felt like my body's condition was being maintained at its highest state. Let's put on the helmet, too. The roundish helmet had a clear, glass-like material protecting the eyes. The practice airplates were devoid of all decoration, but it was clear that the suit was made with care. In a moment, the Sky Knights who will help with your training will arrive. You will spend the next few months with them, so I hope you will treat them with respect. Sky Knights, students, do your best. Know that there are no second chances if you fail your flight training. Here, thorough practical training was highly emphasized. That was how Bajran Sky Knights could emerge as honorable knights respected across the continent. The Sky Knights are coming. Oh, they're the Sky Knights of the Imperial Guard. Sky Knights of the Imperial Guard. The cadets who were busily putting on their armor got excited upon seeing the approaching Sky Knights. There she is. I whirled to look at the Sky Knights, and instantly confirmed the existence of one woman among them. Apostle of the Azure Skies, Countess Irene. Countess Irene, the Sky Knight who had helped me several months ago, was wearing a red cloak, a silver airplate, and a black scarf around her neck. Her glistening, long silver hair fluttered in the wind as she walked. The sight of this woman with a body as lithe as an android from Galaxy Express 888 made my heart pound. I had wanted to see Countess Irene. It seemed she had gotten even more beautiful in the few months I hadn't seen her. 10 refers to Galaxy Express 999, a Japanese space opera manga/anime. Welcome, Countess Irene. You've worked hard. She was much younger than him, but Viscount Atwan politely lowered his head towards Countess Irene, and Irene acknowledged him with a light nod. A apostle of the Azure Skies, Irene. That Irene, who killed 10 enemy wyverns on her own? Alfonso, Luciella, and I had already met her, but the cadets who hadn't exclaimed in surprise. 10 on her own? By all counts, she looked like an elegant lily. It was hard to believe that such a woman had single-handedly defeated 10 wyverns. I am Countess Irene. Nice to meet you, recruits. Her red, small mouth opened as she uttered hard, militant words. I am pleased to work together from today onwards with the recruits who will lead the Empire's future. Just then, I met eyes with Irene and quirked a smile at her. As I did so, I saw a flash of surprise in her solemn eyes. Oh, she smiled at me. Then she made a tiny smile. I was sure she hadn't forgotten me. Then, go stand in front of the Sky Knight you wish you work with. Knights should go to knights, summoners to summoners, and mages to mages. You can pick on your own. This method of training was really exceptional. Perhaps it was for the future of the nobles who would lead the empire in the future, but they were even offering one-on-one guidance. As soon as the command was given, the cadets rushed with alarming speed to stand behind the Sky Knights, standing in rank and file. Their sleeves had marks showing whether they were knights, summoners, or mages, so the cadets made lines in front of the Sky Knights they liked. May he rest in peace. TSK, TSK. As soon as Hyneth and all her charm approached the Sky Knight, his jaw dropped, and he looked blown away. If he knew that the girl in front of him was the only daughter of Bajran's Mad Dog family, he would probably want to jump onto his wyvern and defect to an enemy country. Why haven't you gone to anyone yet? The guys from strong families had mostly chosen Sky Knights from the Imperial Guard, while people from regional families were in front of regular Sky Knights. In just a few moments, the dust had settled. I was the only one who hadn't gone up to someone yet. Sir, I have already chosen someone. Huh? Who? Viscount Otwan, who always watched me, was confused by my words. There's only one Sky Knight left here, isn't there? I said, looking at Irene. Teach that won't do. It seems you've misunderstood something. Countess Irene will not personally train. It is fine, Viscount Otwan. I will take on this trainee. And no, Countess, you are busy with general command, flustered Viscount Otwan, as if nothing like this had happened before. It's not my first time taking on a trainee, so please don't worry. Wow, I've struck gold. I was also familiar with Sir Ratalo, but I was somehow more drawn to Countess Irene. If I was going to be trained now anyway, Countess Irene was 1,000 times better than some sweaty man. Tienya, somehow, we know you be thirsty AF. Then we will begin the first day of training. Go with the Sky Knight you have chosen to the Wyvern Hangar. There was no need for long speech. Intensive training was starting from the very first day. Will we fly into the sky now? I could fly on my own with fly magic, but this would be my first time going into the clouds with a wyvern, which was like a fighter jet in modern terms. Just thinking about it made my whole body tingle with excitement. Oh, the beautiful Countess Irene was walking in front of me. Every other guy cadet was sending me jealous gazes. As we walked, a woman's fragrance drifted towards me on the wind. It was a rule that only the courageous could earn a woman's favor. In terms of courage, I was none other than a true hero. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Countess Irene, do you have training? Greetings to your highness. Greetings to your highness. Oi, why is this guy here? The Crown Prince had a protection duty of 10 Imperial Guard Sky Knights. He was raking Irene with his light gray eyes, which glinted with madness. However, because I wasn't yet at the level where I could officially oppose the Crown Prince, I lowered my head and pretended to not be there. Yes, your highness. The cadets have training from today onwards. Isn't it fine even if you don't personally participate, Countess Irene? And to think the cadet isn't even female, but male, said the Crown Prince, looking my way. This crazy guy's feelings towards Irene. The Crown Prince exuded an aura of an alpha and showed hostility towards me. You also received training from me, didn't you, your highness? That may be true, but it's too much to compare me with someone like him, right? What? This guy to Irene? I began to have a slightly bad feeling. This tyrannical wolf of a crown prince would never suit Irene, who was as graceful as a lily. My impression of Poltviren, which was already negative, began to tank even more. To me, you and this cadet are the same, your highness. Haha, how disappointing. For me, the crown prince of the empire, to be compared to this unpleasant black-haired. HM, now that I look at you, you must be that Kyre. He knows me. Poltviren spat out my name as if he knew me. The crown prince is talking to you, thundered the knight, standing at the crown prince's side. I am Kyre. So you are that Kyre. You're the one who threw nobles and all of the empire's prestige onto the ground. You're really going to do this? This guy. I was sure that Ted Rand, that slimy rat, had tattled to the crown prince. Poltviren suddenly unsheathed his sword with the hissing of steel. Really, dude? He did seem to have quite a lot of mana, but it was still a far cry from me. Then he swung his sword towards my neck with fairly clean movements. There wasn't any bloodthirst, so I didn't dodge. Rather, I was too dumbfounded to. You really want to die that badly? Cuckoo. For a commoner to disdain nobles and the empire's prestige. A filthy commoner. Poltviren the nutjob let out an unpleasant laugh and continued to say very irritating words. What are you doing? Watching with wide eyes, Irene's voice went up an octave. Just stay right there and watch, Knight Irene. I'm currently delivering a hot warning to this guy who dares to treat the Empire and all of its nobles like dog shit on the street. Even if you are the Crown Prince. Such an action oversteps the honor of His Imperial Majesty Alvatrian, who founded the Empire, and the current Emperor, His Imperial Majesty Havitran. To threaten someone here, in a place that can be called the Empire's honor, and a Sky Knight cadet who should be treated like a pseudo-knight at that. Please quickly put down your sword. Irene's enraged cry pierced through the air. Presumptuous! You may be a countess, but how dare you criticize the Crown Prince himself? The wolf's faithful cronies bared their teeth. She's very brave. The Crown Prince had drawn his sword and was waving it around, but I didn't feel much danger, because if I put my mind to it, I could turn him into a fried squid with a little magic. Without knowing how close he was dancing to death, the Crown Prince blabbered on about the Empire and noble's prestige. I was just standing by, watching his actions quietly, though I was ready to beat down his flapping mouth if need be. However, I was touched by Irene's brave defense in my stead. Pwa-ha-ha! The nutjob suddenly broke out in laughter. Good. I like this side of you, Countess Irene. It's very charming. This guy didn't have even a shred of a Crown Prince's dignity. He stared at Irene with big and bright eyes that looked as if he wanted to swallow her whole. Are you still thinking about my proposal? At the Crown Prince's veiled question, Countess Irene trembled all over. Considering how red her face got, it seemed she was feeling very humiliated. I say this once again, I will never accept, even if I die. Never, gritted Irene vehemently. Is that so? Haha. I'm very curious as to how long you can hold out. I'm also curious as to how long I can continue to be this courteous. Poltviren's previously polite manner towards Irene cooled into rudeness. Isn't this guy closer to a back-alley scamp than a crown prince? The trainees are waiting, so please excuse us. The trainees and Sky Knights had already mounted wyverns and were gathering in front of the hangar. Cuckoo! The Crown Prince laughed darkly instead of responding. I guarantee it. If this guy becomes the Emperor, the Empire will perish in 3 years. This wasn't a Crown Prince, but a neighborhood gangster. Irene gave him a short farewell and left. Then goodbye. I also lowered my head and followed her. Cuckoo! The nut job didn't say anything and just laughed. However, his eyes swimming with lunacy said it all. He wanted to rip Irene and me to pieces. Prepare the 2-seater saddle. As you command. I followed Irene to the hangar where the black wyverns were gathering. After leaving the Crown Prince, we walked in utter silence, and then she gave a command to the knights who were on standby. So cool. It wasn't that common for a beautiful woman to be so wise in addition to being so dignified. Irene didn't shrink down in front of the next emperor, and she was able to state her opinion. She was as cool as a career woman, confidently living her life. I wonder which one it is, Irene's wyvern. I began to anticipate seeing Irene's black wyvern. It was a ruler of the skies that represented the Bajran Empire. With my thumping heart, I waited for the hangar door to open. The hangar was a huge building where a wyvern could rest and gather. As if operated by magic, the enormous door opened slowly and smoothly with a creak. Ugh! It was high noon. The sun was in the middle of the sky. Amidst glorious roaring that would dash away all evils of the world, a single gleaming black wyvern was revealed as the door opened. Gruor! As light flooded the hangar through the opening door, the wyvern saw Irene and let out a short cry. It flapped its great wings, making the ground shake. What would you like to do with your blessed spear? We will only execute a test flight today. Mounting the weapons is not required. As you command. The blessed spear. It was a magic item in the shape of a spear exclusively used by Sky Knights. The moment mana was injected and the spear was thrown, this important offensive item would fly towards the target with enormous speed. I wouldn't mind if you just loaded it on, though. I had heard about it and personally experienced an attack, but hadn't seen it loaded up close. As a magic item, it didn't cost just a penny or two, and you couldn't even buy it in a regular magic or weapon store. Because of its danger, unauthorized acquisition and selling was a taboo in the Empire. Get on. Like this. Irene pointed at her wyvern's back and told me to get on as if it were just a car I could hop into. To demonstrate, she lightly kicked off the ground and flew into the air. 11 points out of 10. With the use of mana, Irene leapt 4 meters off the ground and accurately landed into the saddle on the wyvern's neck area. If she were to compete in Olympic gymnastics, she could just take home the gold no problem. I can't lose, can I? My seat was behind Irene's. Fueled by mana, I flew into the air. Ho ho. In my head, I imagined a magnificent arc. It was my first time, but this much wasn't a problem for me. However, the sudden gust of wind blowing towards me from flapping wings was outside of my calculations. Ah! Crash! Ho 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 ho! Ha 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 ha! Caught off guard, laughter rang out in the hangar. The wyvern had lightly dodged and flapped its wings to knock me off course. This big lump of a pheasant. Arf! Thanks to the wyvern's flapping, I was blown not into the saddle, but onto the wyvern's hardback, and my precious eggs slammed into the wyvern, causing a hot wave of agony that made my eyes and nose run with tears and snot. Ahem. Irene couldn't do anything about it, but she glared at her staff members, who were way more experienced than me. They coughed and turned away. Hope you'll understand. It's a tradition that always occurs when you get on a wyvern for the first time. Looking at my enraged expression, the silver-haired woman made a refreshing smile. It's not a birthday punch, but a flight punch? Okay, it's tradition, so I'll bear it. But, you chicken head, you dare to play jokes on a human. I'll remember you. The head wasn't pointy, so it seemed to be a female wyvern rather than a male. Grinding my teeth, I vowed to have my revenge for today. Get in the saddle and put on the belt. Unlike the front seat, which was attached to 4 reins connected to the wyvern's horns and head, the back seat had security rings. Isn't this too close? The 2-seater was located on the wyvern's neck area. The person sitting in the back would definitely touch the one in the front. I gulped down the saliva that suddenly pooled in my mouth, then sat behind Irene. So this is the rig they use here. There were 2 holes at the waist of my airplate where I could attach safety equipment. I fastened the rings to the wyvern's safety belt. The rings snapped on with ease. This is a wyvern. My heart raced, thumping. We hadn't taken off yet, but we were 4 meters above the ground. I could hear the wyvern's slow heartbeat through the saddle, arousing an indescribable emotion within me. Vyverian, please. Vyverian? It's a name that would never suit a wyvern. Vyverian, Irene's wyvern that I vowed to get back at, let out a short roar and then began to run. Ooh. The wyvern rapidly moved in preparation for flight. The movement of the wyvern's muscles, which easily weighed a ton, was fully relayed to me in the saddle. Then, the black wyvern's broad wings were spread wide. I was speechless in my excitement. In modern terms, a wyvern was like a fighter jet. A normal civilian in the 21st century would never get to experience riding something like that. Fly! Vyverian! Shouted Irene. Before I knew it, all the ground staff were far behind us, and all I could hear was the roaring of the wind and the flapping of Vyverian's wings. We're flying. Flying, finally. The wyvern flight of my dreams was finally happening. I wasn't riding my own, but Irene's, but I couldn't expect too much from my first flight. Hold on tight. Tight? Where? I was a proper man, so I couldn't just grab Irene's waist because it was dangerous and I was scared. I'm all right, I said in return. I felt like I could easily keep my balance. Yuwa. As soon as I said so, just like when an airplane had turbulence, my body lifted from the saddle, causing me to put strength into my butt. Then, Vyverian's powerfully flapping wings began to accelerate, and her body lifted off into the air. Yuwa. I was putting a ton of strength into my legs, but I wasn't holding on to anything in front of me. The feeling of my upper body falling backwards made all my hairs stand up. Then my 2 hands unwittingly moved like lightning and grabbed Irene. Wah! But my problems didn't end there. The place I happened to grab was actually Irene's chest area. The airplate was there, but my hands accurately, involuntarily, grabbed Irene's 2 breasts. Geez, how embarrassing. Not 1 minute, no, 10 seconds after saying I was fine, I was forced to hold on for dear life. My pride as a man was ripped to pieces, but it's still nice. Ho-ho. Currently, I was clutching Irene from behind like a sexual predator. The strange imagery that drifted through my thoughts made my chest heat up. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. So this is flight. After securing my position, I could look around at the scene before us. As Irene's wyvern lifted into the air, dozens of other wyverns began to follow her up. It was incredible. The powerful vigor of the wyverns was as if they were about to depart for war. And I was at the lead. Deep in my heart, I was able to see for myself what a Sky Knight truly was. So cool. I couldn't say anything, but admiration rang out in my heart. From hundreds of meters above ground, I dreamed. I dreamed of a flight with my very own wyvern in the future. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Impudent bitch. With the Sky Knight trainees on their backs, The wyverns were lifting off from the covert. One man was scowling at the wyvern in the very front with a cold smile. "Your Highness, please give the order. She may be a countess, but in the end, she is just a woman," said one of the knights belonging to Crown Prince Poltviren's Imperial Guard. All of his knights knew what was on his mind. "Say that again," the Crown Prince said, turning to look at his knight. "Countess Irene has rejected a proposal from the next master of this empire, the Crown Prince himself, so even if we must kidnap—" Bam! Act! As the knight spoke, Crown Prince Poltviren's powerful kick flew towards him and connected with the knight's stomach. "You dare to call the woman I chose a bitch? Why, your highness?" All Sky Knights of the Imperial Guard had noble titles. Poltavran knocked one of those Sky Knights down with a single blow and stepped on his belly. "Do you know what I hate the most?" Poltviren oozed a cold, calm bloodthirst. "I hate bastards who don't know their place the most. I decide things. Why, your highness? Forgive me." Knowing Poltviren's usual temperament, the Sky Knight's face turned white with fear. As a close associate of the Crown Prince, the Sky Knight knew secrets others didn't. That's why he knew better than anyone that the Crown Prince stepping on his body wouldn't hesitate to commit murder. "Keep it in mind. If you obey me, you will share in my glory. But if you dare to defy me or go beyond your place, only the gates of hell will await you." The tense knights clearly registered the Crown Prince's warning and lowered their heads in tandem. The Crown Prince's command was one they could not dare to defy. They weren't driven by the dignity of the heir that would lead the empire, but by fear, a raging madness seen only in tyrants who would tolerate no one's interference. Chapter 32, Derval. Translator, Lay. This is killer. The spell, Fly, could not possibly compare to this high-altitude flight. The sound of rushing wind filled my ears, and the view of the earth was spread out far underneath us. As we flew, clouds grazed past our heads. To top it off, Irene's faint scent was permeating into my helmet. In short, it was the flight of my dreams. It's so free and fast. Our speed didn't match a 21st century fighter jet, but wyvern flight was still pretty fast. As the ground beneath us melted away, I felt one with the wind. Both my body and mind grew lighter. And deep within my heart, a single passionate emotion blossomed. It was a bit much to say this after riding a wyvern once, but a manly exhilaration akin to conquering the world was bubbling up within me. On this huge body, accompanied by the powerful wing beats of the wyvern, there was absolutely nothing to fear. "Hold on tight, tight." Irene's mana-charged cry came whistling all of a sudden into my ear. With a great whoosh, the wyvern accelerated high into the sky, as if charging towards the sun. Woo! A roller coaster can't even compare. I thought of the various Disneyland roller coasters I had enjoyed quite a lot back in the day. Riding one of those didn't give me anything close to the electrifying excitement I was feeling now. The moment my excitement was filling me from head to toe and trembling at its peak, the wyvern suddenly halted its ascent. And then, with surprising agility belying its huge size, the wyvern twisted and plunged headfirst. Yuwa-awa! Wind rushed madly in our rapid descent. Despite wearing the magically enspelled trainee airplate, I felt the G-forces down to my very cells. It was a terrifying feeling that even Korea's most thrilling ride, the Wulmado Viking, could never deliver. "Are you trying to kill someone here?" "Aya!" Thanks to the sudden rush of atmospheric forces, I threw all my strength into grabbing Irene's chest waist. This feeling of falling in midair hundreds of kilometers above the earth was as terrifying as Chucky from the horror stories that used to make me piss a little in fear as a kid. After falling to the earth like that for a while, the wyvern rapidly turned and leveled off. Oh! Atop her leisurely flying wyvern, Irene removed her helmet with a click. Her hair flowed out behind her in the wind and tickled my nose. "Take a deep breath, really deep, until you feel your chest bursting," she whispered. As if hypnotized by command, I also took off my helmet. A fresh spring day, ensconced in the warm sun of the afternoon. The blue sky dotted with white clouds all around us. The air filling my lungs seemed to cleanse out all of the dirt lodged in my system from living and breathing polluted air. I closed my eyes. Then I drew a deep breath of the sky's air, like a baby sucking on his mother's teat. Good. For me. I yearn and wish for the sky. One day, we'll fly towards the sun, endlessly. Irene's quiet voice billowed away from her like silk threads. She looked different. She wasn't the smart and beautiful countess of the Bajran Empire that I knew, but a girl holding onto a dream that was somehow very precious to her, a girl untouched by the darkness of the world. Ueowa. Ho ho ho, ho ho ho. This voice is... I turned my head. My God, I'm gonna go crazy. Then I saw it. With her helmet thrown away to who knows where, Hyneth had at some point pushed her Sky Knight to the back and was confidently occupying the front seat. Under Hyneth's rough whip, the Wyvern and owner were completely unable to gather their bearings and were flying in disordered circles. I fervently wished she wouldn't go and introduce herself as my little sister anywhere. There are also people who can't adjust, unlike Hyneth, who had adjusted perfectly and was already madly scampering around. There were several cadets who were either completely exhausted or trembling uncontrollably with their heads down. Russell, one of those cadets, was someone I knew. If he can't adjust by the third chance they give, then he's out. I already knew the purpose of this flight practice. Its primary motive was to screen out the ones who didn't fit the bill. We're returning to the covert. Irene's clear voice rang out so loudly it seemed to shake the sky. Vivirion folded one wing halfway and changed directions. Babetto. Suddenly, my thoughts shifted to the wyvern trapped in the darkness, Babetto. It occurred to me that I wanted to gift him this incredible sky. In a flight with me, that is... Are you okay? It's none of your business. Go away. Oh, take a look at this guy. Russell's face was completely pale, filled with rage toward himself for not being able to adjust to the wyvern. He was lashing out at the world. Is that so? Then good luck. I wasn't one to blink at getting a tongue lashing. It wasn't good to rock the boat while he was this sensitive anyway, so leaving him alone was probably the best thing to do. Sob. As soon as I turned around, I heard a low sob behind me. He said he had to avenge his parents, right? I had accidentally overheard Russell's deep grudge and knew about his heart-wrenching desire to get revenge, even if he had to sell his soul to the devil. If it's hard, then ask for help. You're not even a girl, but you're whimpering on your own. A part of me felt mixed emotions due to sympathy. Russell urgently needed to become a Sky Knight. As I left the room, various thoughts floated to my mind. What kinds of methods were there to help that crybaby Russell stand confidently on a wyvern? Asterisk. Damn, my feet just brought me here. Feeling uncomfortable at heart, I went out. The shadows of evening had fallen on Kerfone Covert. Looking into the sky, I remembered my flight experience at Irene's back. As I walked, I unwittingly found myself at a certain place. In front of me was a large building dimly lit by one of the magic lampposts on the mountain. Babetto. It was the hangar of Babetto, a mixed-breed wyvern that would curse a Sky Knight with misfortune. I want to fly with him. Babetto's wings and body were bigger than other wyverns. I wanted to share the bright blue sky filled with fresh air with him. Would he welcome me? I didn't know how long he had been locked up on the ground, forbidden from the open skies. I wasn't sure if he would welcome me, a person who had trespassed into his life without any warning. But that was fine with me. I still wanted to converse with the fellow, even if we had to do it in darkness. Thinking that, I opened the small side door with a creak. Babetto's huge eyes opened wide as the door opened. His golden eyes were filled with rage towards the world. They hung in the darkness like two spectral orbs. Hi. I tried greeting him with a wave. He doesn't know how to greet someone. Babetto showed his displeasure with his silence. Did you eat dinner yet? I attempted to chat again, but the only thing that greeted me was a pair of wary eyes. I flew on a wyvern for the first time today. It was seriously amazing. Not caring if he listened or not, I share my experiences today with exaggerated words. Super impressive. To think that something that isn't even a fighter jet can fly so high and freely. I knew you guys were sturdy, but I didn't know you were like frickin' dragons. Stretching my arms wide, I imitated a wyvern's wings. Oh, that's it. And my flight imitation, Babetto, perked up. No matter how he postured, in the end, he was just a locked-up chicken with a big body. Hey, have you tasted the wind? Kaya, the air is completely different up there than on the ground. How should I say it? Like the taste of pure, gleaming water, refreshing and crisp. That flavor. It's fantastic. I didn't know how much Babetto could understand, but considering how his pupils trembled, it seemed like he understood the basic gist of what I was saying. I really like him, but the problem was he was a cursed creature that would be targeted by every wyvern and Sky Knight. Even if we ran away from here, there were probably not many places that would welcome us. Lulu, Babetto, your Hyungnim is here. Hyungnim, While I was agonizing over Babetto's future, a husky voice came from outside. I retreated into the wall, hiding myself in the shadows. You must be hungry, right? A man appeared at the side door, his voice full of affection, like a real Hyungnim. Who is he? He was wearing the same clothes as a regular administrative clerk, serving in the covert, and holding a few pieces of fairly heavy-looking meat. Eat up. Maybe everyone was full today or something, but I was able to get some pretty good stuff. The man threw the meat onto a huge wooden board used for wyvern meals. Scraps. Even in the darkness, I could clearly see the kinds of meat on the tray. Pig hide, sheep meat, and cow legs. They looked like leftovers from other wyverns. Go. You're thankful? What thanks? We're both in the same boat. He's missing an arm. The man's left arm was unnatural. It was cut off from the elbow. As I watched, the man softly stroked Babetto's leg. Babetto purred like a cat and then dove into the meat. You poor fellow. It was sad enough that he was locked up, but even his food was so poor. I felt sorry for him from the bottom of my heart. Babetto, I'm leaving soon, said the man after watching Babetto eat for a while. As if he instantly understood, Babetto stopped eating. It can't be helped. No one will hire an idiotic ground crewmate with no strength. Moreover, I'm branded. Is he getting fired? This damn world. My dream wasn't to end up like this. When I graduated from Empire Administrative Academy, it wasn't like this. Arg. The man vented the unfairness of the world with a frigid voice. The Empire Administrative Academy? He's an elite. Unlike the Imperial Knight Academy, which fostered knights and nobles, the Empire Administrative Academy was a place that turned out clerks for the Empire's administrative affairs or people for ground crews. From what I heard, only the smartest among the commoners could gain admittance. Ghoul, as if trying to comfort the man, Babetto rubbed his horns on the man's waist. He's got sense. Babetto was able to recognize a human's complicated emotions. My favorable impression of him jumped by another 10 points. I'm sorry you have a heart too. Sorry for showing you this pathetic sight. I didn't know how the man lost his arm, but from his words, the crewmate seemed to have had fairly ambitious dreams. After hugging Babetto's warmth for a bit, he soon peeled away. I'm worried. Without me here, there's no one to take care of you. Those stupid fucking nobles don't know a treasure when they see one. His arm was maimed, but this was a man who was more worried about Babetto than his own fate. I wanted to help him. They said you can only hire a crewmate if you have your own wyvern, though. Unfortunately, in my current position, I couldn't do anything. I'm going. Sleep well. The man trailed off. Without noticing me in the darkness, he went out the door. After the man left, Babetto turned to face me, as if telling me to come out now. You should recognize your blessings. With the Imperial Princess, and even that guy as your big brother, you can count yourself pretty lucky in your own way. Goo. What is he saying? Babetto seemed to be trying to say something. He stared at the door while nodding his head, and I was somehow able to understand. You want me to help the guy who just left? Ghoul. At my words, Babetto nodded. Whoa, he's as smart. I knew wyverns were intelligent, but I never even imagined they would be capable of expressing their opinions like this. Is he smarter because he's a hybrid? If you want me to, I'll give it a shot, but don't get your hopes up too much. Gua. The light in Babetto's eyes turned warm at my words. It seemed he was accepting me a bit more now. I'm going for today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Even a dog didn't like to be bothered while eating. Moreover, Babetto even had to eat scraps gathered from here and there. I'll take you to a paradise swimming with meat. I made a decision. I want to take this wretched wyvern to paradise. Students, this is the blessed spear, which you should all know about already. Maximum range of 2 kilometers, weight of 2 kilograms. Once the mana crystal is charged, it will be ready to fire when the crystal glows. The tip of the blessed spear was coated with mithril. This enspelled spear was inscribed with homing and strengthening spells. Each lance cost at least 1,000 gold. As our magic instructor, Viscount Bane, poured mana into it, the spear began to glow with a faint blue light. With a stronger magic crystal and higher circle enchantments, the shooting range could be expanded. But it's pointless to do so, because any wyvern can avoid a blessed spear thrown from over 2 kilometers away, as long as they're not a slowpoke. It's the same concept as missiles in the modern world. I thought of the air-to-air missiles used when a fighter jet fought another jet. The blessed spear was this world's equivalent. You can also use it on land attacks. But it's laughable to use something that costs 1,000 gold per shot to kill knights on the ground. Of course, if you are able to recover the spear afterwards, you can use it that way. I had personally experienced a taste of the blessed spear. A knight on land was no match for this magic spear, which could drill into a huge rock. We will distribute one blessed spear each to you all. Experience the way it moves to launching mode when you put mana into it. Only, be careful that you don't shoot the spear at a classmate. The blessed spears were being held in about 10 magic containers. We were getting lessons in the drill hall of the covert, which was used to train wyverns or patrols. 1,000 gold a pop? They said wyverns are loaded up with 10 spears every time they fly, right? A Sky Knight was created through money and lived on money. I could only see the blessed spears as lumps of money. I had the feeling that these spears would be a great help to me in my life from now on. It's surprisingly light. I lined up to get a blessed spear. As I gripped it with my right hand, I noticed it was lighter than expected, so I should put mana in here. A magic inscription was drawn around the handle. I lightly poured mana in. So if I throw this, it'll fly 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers wasn't that big of a distance in the air, but on land, it was quite far. I suddenly felt a tingling energy from behind me. Instinctively ducking, I swung the magic spear in my hands. Clang! A powerful impact traveled up my hand. What's going on? The surprised voices of the cadets rang out in the hall. This bastard! One of the cadets was frowning and making an expression of regret. It was Jusane, the next count of the so-called invincible Turman family. What are you doing? Viscount Bane ran over at once. I apologize. I only meant to add mana and throw a bit, but Jusane bowed his head and apologized to Viscount Bane. A bit? Seriously, give me a break. The blessed spear, I had reflected, had buried itself into the ground. It would have meant immediate death if that spear had pierced my body instead. But the thrower, Jusane, was apologizing to Viscount Bane instead of me. They're feigning innocence, I see. Unable to vent their resentment while in the Knight Academy, these guys were now baring their teeth at the covert. This is why the words of the great seniors were right. If you step on someone, bury them so deep that they can't sprout anymore. Be careful. Even though he was an instructor, it didn't seem like Viscount Bane could get too involved. There are people like Viscount Awan who turn a blind eye, but even an instructor could only be submissive towards a student from a family of high nobility, basically from the count status onwards. Then, we'll end the class with this. Return your spears. Viscount Bane just told Jusane to be careful. He didn't even give a warning, and quickly ended the class. Are they putting their faith in the Crown Prince? The change in these guys after coming to the covert was obvious. They were gathered around the son of a duke, Tedran, and glaring at me. Yoa, their balls have really grown. At the academy, I would have immediately taken care of them, but this time, I simply took a deep breath and resisted. Cleaning up the trash could wait. I had more than enough time. There would be a chance to give these guys a hot and lovely experience they would never forget. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Aga, give up with this. Fear of heights is not something that can be easily overcome. Russell, a necessary condition to become a Sky Knight was the ability to endure flight. Even a great Archmage wouldn't be able to become a Sky Knight if they couldn't fly. He failed his second attempt. Now, he's only got one try left. As the training went on, we acquired wyvern control, weapon use, and various other techniques during our flying training. As the others learned, there were a few cadets who still couldn't overcome the basic requirement for flight. Russell was one of the cadets about to flunk out. If you're afraid of the wind, you have no qualification to become a Sky Knight, uttered Irene coldly as she stroked her wyvern's head, all while gazing at the cadets who were crawling on the ground, throwing up. How could a wind summoner be afraid of the wind? Unlike the other cadets, a summoner of wind had a definite understanding of the wind. After all, they could only summon a wind spirit if they had sufficient affinity. Of course, there were also exceptions like me. There must be a different reason why Russell is having such a hard time. Russell's blanched face showed a reaction on a different level from just fear of heights. His face was completely twisted in pain, as if suffering from a nightmare. He gathered his composure before turning his head and thanking Irene. Thank you for today. Instead of responding, Irene's pure, fairy-like eyes glowed with a charm that would make any onlooker's heart thump. Why you do this? Making my heart race and all. The silver-haired lady had removed her helmet and was sitting on her airplate. Her blue eyes gleamed like stars. Irene, the woman I saw periodically in my dreams, was staring intently at me. Let us dine together sometime. Dine. I was surprised that Countess Irene, who was rumored in the covert to be arrogant and cold, was offering to dine with me. That would be lovely, I said readily, smiling brightly. It looks good on you, that smile. Turning her head, Irene threw out a compliment that buried itself in my heart. You look very good too, ma'am. Like the clear sky itself. Irene's childlike, pure spirit revealed itself when we rode her wyvern together and flew over the covert. She was such a bundle of charm that any man would want to put their life on the line and try to win her heart. But what should be done about this guy? Done throwing up, Russell was staring blankly at the ground. His pathetic appearance plunged me into deep thought. If this went on, his life would be ruined. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Derval, you stupid piece of shit. How can you spill the scraps? Bam. Arg. While I was deep in thought about how to cure Russell's fear of heights, I heard the sounds of cursing and rhythmical blows. That person is. It was a man who called himself Babetto's Hyungnim. You should pay the price properly for the idiot's food, shouldn't you? Kek. Tui, an elite from the Empire Administrative Academy itself, was getting spat on. He had stumbled to the ground, an overturned pail of scraps next to him. Just leave him, he's getting kicked out in a few days. I feel sorry for him. What's sorriness? Because this bastard verbally offended His Highness the Crown Prince himself. Even we got punished. How dare a mere crewmate suggest improvements to the covert in front of the Crown Prince, without knowing his place? The crumpled Derval only bowed his head in response to the harsh slandering of the other crewmates around him. And for that, his arm was cut off. We did have a pay cut, but Derval, shut up. If you take his side, you could get targeted by His Imperial Highness and the nobles, too. Let's go. It's unlucky to be next to this guy. The crewmate who had defended Derval cast a regretful expression at him before getting dragged away by the others. Coo-coo-coo-coo, coo-coo-coo-coo-coo. As soon as the crewmates disappeared, Derval's dry laughter rang out. Why are there only sorry fools near me? The loser wyvern and the pitiful crewmate, as well as Russell, who couldn't fly, and the little Imperial Prince caught up in the power struggle of the Imperial family. Through a twist of fate, everyone I had met was struggling. Are you okay? He looked a few years older than me, but because I was a cadet receiving pseudo-night treatment, I didn't bother with formal speech. He could catch a dragon with that look. Derval's smoldering gaze was spitting out daggers. It was enough to make a person shrink back. Leave me alone. Oh, Sir Knight, said Derval sharply like a person who had given up on life. I don't want to. I lightly refused. At my words, Derval's eyes trembled for a moment. Get up. Your legs look fine, so will you keep sitting on the ground? If you wish to stay like that for the rest of your life, should I break them for you? I said, betraying no emotion. Are you insulting me right now? Oh, grand and mighty cadet. No, this isn't an insult, but complete disregard. Why, you bastard? It was clear that he had given up on himself. If not for Babetto's request, even I would not tolerate his crude words and actions. Idiot. You are. His face flushing, Derval rose from his spot and threw a punch with his one good arm. Pow! However, I stopped his charge with a single kick of my right leg. Gasp. After taking my Taekwondo-trained right foot full on, Derval's face went pale and he drew in gasping breaths. Get up. No one will take pity on you even if you do that, I uttered coldly to Derval, who was clutching his belly and bowed over in pain. Why? Did it hurt? It shouldn't hurt, though. It looks like your life sure is hard right now, so why not just give up? What's the use in living when even your colleagues have discarded you? You're even missing an arm. I aimed directly for his sensitive points. Cuckoo. I guess he's only got his pride left. Anyone else would have landed on the floor with a single kick from me, but Derval slowly straightened while clutching his waist with a white face. His willpower alone was admirable. Kill me. Just kill me already. You mighty knight shithead. Kill you? Then I'll do just that. Bam. Ba-bum. Arg. Ack. My 2 feet and fists landed on the vulnerable parts that would hurt. After taking 10 hits, Derval collapsed on the ground. But what to do? I'm not some mighty knight, but an ordinary commoner like you. Ho-ho, I said, looking at Derval, who was trembling all over. What's the use in living as a pathetic person earning sympathy from even a wyvern? If you want to die, then just die without causing trouble to various people. Gilbu, Solby. Under my barrage of cold and calm words, Derval had bowed his head and was stifling a sob. I stared at Derval's painful appearance as he wept for a long time. I haven't tried it, so I can't say for sure, but dying isn't such an easy thing. If I were you, I would live on even if it's dirty and unfair and try my best to survive. Did you know? As you live, the sun never fails to rise. Even if it's hard, overcome it. You've only got yourself in this world. It was a shame that his arm had been cut off, but there wasn't anything I could do about that. The world was a cruel place where only he could save himself from despair. He could only live on if he overcame this with his own power. But he won't really die on me, will he? There was nothing more I could do. Shaking my head, I wandered the covert with no destination in mind. A chick could only gain the qualification to live by breaking the shell protecting it. Chapter 33. Forbidden Night Flight. Translator, Lay. Kyrnim. Night was deepening in the covert. Finished with patrols and training, the wyverns had returned to their individual hangars. The covert was dimly lit by magic lamps placed here and there. Someone called me from the side of a building shrouded in darkness. Over here, over here. Holy, it's Aegis. As a member of Great Bajran's imperial bloodline, Aegis was escorted by imperial knights in the covert as well. She was looking around and gesturing at me from within the darkness like a thieving cat. Oh, Imperial Princess. Chill. Be quiet. I ditched the imperial knights and came out here. The ladylike, refined Aegis made a shushing motion at her lips while looking all around with a tense expression. How cute. This cautious appearance of hers was a rare sight. It was really adorable. Come with me. Regular clothes? Instead of the imperial training outfit embroidered with gold thread, Aegis was wearing a normal airplate like me. I quietly moved into the shadowy side road. Why is she looking for me so late at night? If we had a romantic relationship, I could understand her looking for me to share a lovey-dovey moment in a dark place, but we weren't in that kind of relationship at all. I just didn't let down her guard and scurried to take the lead. I didn't even eat, though. The covert was still full of places to sightsee. The more I saw, the more questions I had about various things. As a result, time flew by, and I hadn't even had dinner yet. But what's with this sense of danger I feel? The Imperial Princess wouldn't do anything bad, but I had a bad feeling. Moreover, I just had ditched her guards and had clearly waited for me. Something was definitely up. After walking in silence with Aegis for a while, we arrived at a very familiar place. It was the cursed hangar where Babetto was staying. Aegis opened the creaking hangar side door and stepped in first. Why here? Various thoughts were popping up in my mind. It's fishy. I have a bad feeling. The noble Imperial Princess of Bajran had dragged me over to Babetto's hangar like a thieving cat. Shaking my head in puzzlement, I followed her inside. Asterisk. What's this? A portable magic lantern was filling Babetto's hangar with a dim light. Why is there a saddle here? Inside the hangar was a necessary item for riding a wyvern, a two-seater saddle. Babetto, I have to return to the palace tomorrow. This time, I don't know when I can come back. I want to gift the sky to you before I go. Return? Gift? I failed to understand this puzzling situation. She's even got a key. I just unlocked the steel shackles on Babetto's ankles with a key she got from who knows where. Your Highness, what are you doing now? Kyrnim, I beseech you. Please help Babetto see the sky. Why does she look like she's about to cry? It was said that a woman's greatest weapon was their tears. Tears were pooling in Aegis' large eyes. This wasn't the confident Imperial Princess I knew. Please don't worry. Babetto isn't a stranger. Thank you. I believe that you would understand me. Kyrnim. As she spoke, a gentle smile appeared on Princess Aegis' lips. Oh, gods above. I don't know what karma I accumulated in my last life, but these days my surroundings were filled with incredible beauties. Happiness surged inside my chest. Should I put on the saddle? Yes. The sight of the princess' happiness completely transformed me into a willing servant. I hefted the two-seater saddle and stood in front of Babetto. You heard that, right? Tonight, we're going for a ride. From the moment he heard what was happening, Babetto's eyes had been flashing with excitement. He didn't say anything. It would be easier if I used levitation. Levitation magic was perfect for putting on the saddle, but it was only a fanciful thought. I didn't want to reveal that I was a mage right now, even if it was the Imperial Princess. Feels amazing. Having already seen the process a few times, I took the 10+ kilogram saddle and clambered up Babetto's leg. As I did so, I marveled at the feeling of Babetto's warm fur. Atop his sturdy hide, which was wrapped tightly around his whole body, were golden fur stripes that were truly striking against the black. The quality of the fur coat my mom occasionally wore could not even compare. But will he be able to fly well? Babetto had definitely been locked up here since the day he was born. I couldn't help but worry that he wouldn't be able to fly with his heavy body and us on his back. Well, he's still a wyvern in name. In the end, he was no chicken, but a wyvern. And Babetto was a hybrid that was stronger than other wyverns at that. I believed in him, rather The deeply rooted feeling of intimacy I had towards Babetto turned to belief. Click. It's all done. Now you're free. After covering his horns with a round leather net and attaching leather straps to his neck and both wing pits, the two-seater saddle was fully equipped. At some point, I just had also finished unlocking the shackles. Gruel, the shackles had fallen from his feet, but Babetto couldn't even think of moving. He made a throaty sound and just blinked his eyes as if he didn't believe what was happening. Try moving, Babetto. I just petted Babetto's leg with gentle strokes of her hand. After putting on the saddle, I had returned to the princess side, and from there, I could see Ija's sincere heart full of care for this wyvern. Go. As if emboldened by Ija's words, Babetto let out a trembling cry. Then he slowly moved his foot. It was just one step, but the ground shook from the heavy movement. Why is my heart trembling like this? The thought of seeing this wyvern, who was ostracized by all of wyvern kind, free and in flight made my heart thump. Suddenly, the princess grabbed my hand. I wasn't just imagining it. I just was watching Babetto's movement with joyful eyes and then grabbed my hand without notice. Her hand, which was as smooth as silk, made my heart thump like crazy. Thank you, Babetto. If not for Babetto, how would I, a mere almost knight, get a chance to hold the princess' hand? Wait a second, the saddle is a two-seater. This sudden arrangement made me want to shut my eyes tight. I didn't expect things with Princess Aegis to progress this quickly. That's right. If I'm going to become a Sky Knight, I should fly with a beautiful princess like this once. Whether it was because I was already stupidly reckless or because I was born to do great things, but my thoughts quickly adjusted from disbelief to it's a matter of course. I was determined to not scream like a baby like when I had my first flight with Irene. Kyrnim. Why yes. My eyes were filled with the lovely sight of Aegis. Her voice flowed into my ear like honey. The door. Unable to extricate her hand from mine, Aegis just pointed at the door with a flushing face. As you command. Crying out like an imperial knight, I ran towards the hangar door. I won't wash this hand for a few days. You hee. The warm feeling of Aegis on my right hand got written right away into my mental hard disk. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Princess Aegis has disappeared. What? I just did. Despite being the Crown Prince, Poltvarn was forced to follow the tradition of the imperial family and complete wyvern flight training for a number of days. He was drinking a glass of wine while thinking about the tedious flight training that was finally over when an imperial knight ran over and informed him that Aegis had disappeared. This pain in the ass bitch. Aegis and Ration were children from the legitimate empress, unlike him, who was the child of the queen. If something happened to Aegis, who was deeply loved by the emperor, the flames would most certainly affect him, Poltvarn, as well. Issue an emergency warning and find the princess at once. As you command. The covert's top chain of command was the vice-captain of the Imperial Sky Knights, Marquis Mermoz. But when it came to an issue concerning the Imperial family, the Crown Prince had supreme command. The knights gathered in front of the Crown Prince's door shouted in response to his order. Why, Your Highness? A message came from the lookout tower. They have discovered the Imperial Princess. Why yes. They say she has gone for a night flight on a wyvern. But the reporting knight trailed off. Speak at once, shouted the Crown Prince forcefully, noticing there was something unusual at foot. She took off on the cursed wyvern. What? The cursed wyvern? Gasp. The Crown Prince was not an easily surprised man, but this news made him reveal a shocked expression. It was, after all, the hybrid wyvern that was said to curse you even by looking at it. Poltvarn knew there was one in the covert, but he had never seen it. But now there was a report that the noble imperial princess herself had flown off on the cursed wyvern. You stupid bitch. Cuckoo. His surprise was short-lived. Crown Prince Poltvarn smiled inwardly at the evil thought that passed through his mind. They also said she wasn't alone. Everyone's faces went stiff. They say she has taken flight with a male cadet wearing an air plate distributed to the cadets. With a male cadet? Yes, Your Highness. It is unmistakable information confirmed by manoscopes from each lookout tower. There were around 10 lookout towers in the area around the covert. Each one was manned by mages that could use communication magic and manoscopes. Sortie every Sky Knight at once. The Crown Prince's face hardened. The moment the situation changed from the princess' arbitrary flight to a kidnapping, he knew that the Emperor's wrath would pierce the heavens. You unlucky bitch. Crown Prince Poltviren ground his teeth. The moment he became emperor, he would make everything happen as his mother wished. On his name, as the Crown Prince, he would definitely kick out the Empress and send off the Imperial Princess to become a concubine in a lowly kingdom. Whoosh! The silver moon hung in the sky amidst a bejeweled field of stars. The wyvern who was experiencing his first taste of freedom ever was flapping his huge wings as he cut through the air. I breathed deeply and exhaled to calm the surging emotions in my chest. Otherwise, I would have probably cried. The night sky was incredibly beautiful. Even the clouds had gone to sleep, leaving only the joy of someone invited to a playground of stars. The cold night air brought my spirit to a state of utter wakefulness, and the sea of pale stars was beautiful enough to make my heart stop. I felt Babetto's taut nerve through the reins in my hands. Just leaving the hangar had been difficult for him, but the moment his gaze was transported to the sky above, Babetto had excitedly flapped his huge wings. I had been forced to quickly jump onto his back. Then we took to the skies. In the confusion of the moment, I had taken the front seat and become the Sky Knight, controlling Babetto. In order to fly, Babetto flew perfectly into the sky without a single mistake, like a truly outstanding wyvern. He let out a scream that seemed to shake the night sky. This blessed night had finally come, as if compensating for his many years of hell. His wings flapped like crazy. In our sudden departure, I had left without equipping my helmet. Unlike the air plates, the helmets were a nuisance. Once training was over, I would ram the thing into the ground one day. It was so much better to take in the wind with a bare face. Fly as much as you want. Quite a lot of time had already passed, but Babetto didn't show a hint of exhaustion and flew energetically through the mountains and fields. The golden stripes on his black body gleamed in the silver moonlight. A little bit slower. It's hard. Ija's voice came from behind me. It was hard to hear because of the wind, but thanks to using mana, I still understood her clearly. She seemed exhausted. A Sky Knight she may be, but there was nothing she could do about her lower physical endurance. Because of Babetto's wild, aggressive, directionless flight, she was expending a lot of strength to grab onto my waist. Moreover, I just could only hold onto my belt because of our air plates. She had reached her limit. Babetto, fly a bit slower now. The Imperial Princess says it's hard for her. I was holding onto the control reins, but I didn't know how to control him, and Babetto didn't react to my direction either. Therefore, I just yelled loudly with mana. He understands words very well. Despite being a monster, Babetto was a smart fellow. The crazy flapping of his wings slowed, and he pulled back his speed. As soon as the speed went down, I just was able to let out a long breath and loosen her grip on my belt. Damn, it's a shame. I couldn't experience Ija's hug to the full extent because of the stupid armor, but that electrifying sensation of a beautiful woman hugging my waist had still been very nice. I thought I could understand the feelings of my friends who were determined to take their motorcycles to the road, even if they could die. You brat, are you happy now? Babetto stretched out his long horns and drew deep breaths with his enormous set of lungs. I could feel the dynamic movement of his breathing vividly through the saddle and reins. So this is why they say a Sky Knight and his wyvern are one body. We could feel each other's breaths. If a regular flight was like this, I was sure that even more intense affinity would be required for a battle where life and death were at stake. That must be why even arrogant nobles were sincere towards their wyverns. It's beautiful. I just said once Babetto grasped the atmosphere and flew at a much more relaxed pace. It's my first time flying at night. I had always imagined this, but Imperial Princess or not, a girl was a girl. Moreover, unlike those rude noble kids, I just was made of better stuff. For a girl worrying about Babetto with such a tender and kind spirit, this moment was probably heavenly. Thank you. If not for you, Sir Kyer, I wouldn't have even been able to dream of this. If you're really thankful, don't just say it, grab my hand, or give me a kiss. It's nothing so grand. Of course a knight should listen to the beautiful and noble lady's request. The chivalrous words from my mouth were very different from my thoughts. Even I had to admit it was extremely cheesy. I will never forget this night flight with you, Sir Kyer. The flying girl's warm confession was music to the ears. I will never forget it either. If not for the Kallian continent, how could a regular high school student from Korea fly like this with a noble princess? I wonder if Aramis is doing well. Aramis, a priestess in training, had also told me she yearned for a flight through the night sky like this. At that time, I didn't have a wyvern, so I could only show her a little taste of flight using fly magic. Even I think that I, Kang Hyuk, am a bad guy. Even while taking a world-class beauty, the imperial princess, on a ride, I was thinking about another woman. It was truly deplorable. But what could I do? This was the hardiness of youth. This feeling is. The moon and stars were shining, but it was still harder to check my surroundings than in daylight. However, thanks to my well-developed mana, I was able to detect it. Something was flying towards us from far away. Goo! Bebeto seemed to have sensed it as well, because he let out a low cry. Wyverns! And they weren't just normal gray wyverns, but ones I recognized at first sight. Sky Knights of the Imperial Guard. Fuck! Of course our unauthorized flight wouldn't end well. In a perfect world, we would have enjoyed a cozy flight and quietly returned to Bebeto's hangar. But that was a pipe dream. There were lookout towers everywhere, keeping a close eye on wyvern takeoffs and landings, so a secret flight was impossible. However, I didn't know they would go as far as to deploy black wyverns. Nothing is free in the world, I'm telling you. The night flight I had enjoyed with Aegis was coming to an end. Oi, oi, they're in total battle mode. Within moments, the black wyverns closed the distance. Around 20 wyverns with their masters wielding blessed spears surrounded us in no time at all. Princess Aegis, I believe it's time to go home now. Pardon? Sky Knights of the Imperial Guard have come to escort you back. Ah, exclaimed Aegis in a voice full of regret. The next moment, a warning came at us full of mana. This is a warning. Control your wyvern in the direction we show you at once. They're ready to fight. The spears must be ready to fire because they were glowing. 20 of those charged blessed spears were pointed towards Bebeto and me. Gah! Bebeto spat out a cry of irritation. His moment of freedom had lasted only for a moment. He was hostile towards those who threatened him. I guess a very warm welcome is waiting for us. If it was bad enough for black wyverns to make an entrance, the situation was already critical. As if confirming my judgment, more wyverns appeared from the distance. I was sure that the problem wasn't Bebeto, but the imperial princess, Aegis. Bebeto, let's go. The situation had quickly turned sour for us. I soothed Bebeto and prepared to return. If need be, I'll fight you all. In my heart, I was fully ready to bare my teeth if things came down to it. Chapter 34, Duel. Translator, Lay. Phew. As we re-entered the covert airspace, there was a swarm of over 100 wyverns waiting for us. The covert signal tower beamed a bright blue light into the sky, and the next moment, wyverns came at us from all directions. They're probably itching to get us. They were all aristocratic Sky Knights. I was sure they would be harboring resentment for having to wake up in the middle of the night. Please do not worry. I will take responsibility for everything. Aegis was no longer just a girl, but once again the noble imperial princess. Her dignified voice rang out behind me. Land, shouted the Imperial Guard Sky Knight who had flanked us. That shithead crown prince is probably here too, right? Anyone else could have been subdued with the princess authority, but not the temperamental crown prince. I led Bebeto to the central clearing on the covert runway, which was brightly lit up by all the activated magic lamps. Bebeto must have realized the gravity of the situation, because he meekly complied. It was a real shame. Tonight might have been his last flight. With great flaps of his wings, we approached the central clearing chock full of fully armored knights and soldiers. I soothed the tense Bebeto as we slowly began to land. We're just like freaking circus monkeys. There were at least 1,000 gazes on us. As Bebeto slowly landed, the wyverns flying in the area also landed in front of their hangars, leaving around 20 wyverns in the air in case we tried to escape. Bebeto landed with a great thump. We have arrived, Your Imperial Highness. Well done, Sir Kyre. I had nerves of steel, but Aegis' courage was nothing to scoff at either. We shared a courteous farewell. Escort the Imperial Princess. Someone's command rang out, and the Imperial Knights in charge of guarding the Imperial Princess came running. Go! As the Imperial Knights charged towards us, Bebeto reacted with a high-strung cry. Calm down. I stroked his neck and calmed Bebeto. You jerks are scared shitless, aren't you? The Imperial Knights were all frightened by the roaring of this wyvern, who was known as a cursed taboo. Only after I calmed Bebeto did they dare to carefully approach. Unlocking the saddle belt, I just slid gracefully down Bebeto's wing. I also undid my saddle belt with a click and jumped off of Bebeto, landing with a thump. Seize the criminal who kidnapped the princess. If he resists, decapitation is permitted. Kidnapped? Jesus. Even though it was more the other way around, the Imperial Knights were ready to take me down as the criminal. The Sky Knights who had landed their wyverns also hurried to run over and take up positions around us. Everyone halt. However, I had a hidden card up my sleeve. I just stood forward with a confident and dignified pose. Sir Kyr did not do anything wrong. Everything that happened today was arranged by me. I just deterred the knights with a firm voice devoid of a single tremble. At her words, the people approaching with swords in their hands stopped. No matter what, they couldn't just ignore the authority of the Imperial Princess. Arrest him. But there was just one person who I just was helpless towards. His name was, you shithead, Poltviren. It was this empire's crown prince, the extraordinarily ominous Poltviren. I just didn't submit to the crown prince and stood in front of me. Guarded by Imperial Knights, Poltviren jutted his fierce, angular chin and approached Aegis. Do you know what you have done? Do you know that because of you, the Sky Knights who should be protecting the Imperial family in the capital have been summoned without rest to settle this ridiculous matter? Poltviren raked Aegis over with an aggressive glare. Esteemed elder brother, I am indeed regretful about that. But, slap. You jerk. What excuse can justify taking a taboo, hybrid wyvern and bringing chaos to the entire covert? Even if you're a princess of this empire, this is clearly an unforgivable sin. This horrible brute slapped his sister with no hesitation in front of countless nobles and soldiers. He sternly reprimanded Aegis with an enraged voice. He's laughing, but despite his outward mien, I could see it. In those mad eyes of his, I could see that he was laughing with delight. Imperial Knight, here, execute the cursed wyvern, and arrest that man. As you command. The honed swords of the Empire and Imperial family, the Imperial Knights cloaked in red, unsheathed their swords in tandem at the Crown Prince's command. Their blades shone with the blue light. Everyone stop. I said stop. On her left cheek was a clear handprint, and her lip was busted and bleeding. I just blocked the Imperial Knights with a cry full of sadness. Do you dare to defy my order? Me, the Crown Prince of this empire? This is unjust. I have said that everything was my arrangement, but you persist with this abuse of authority. You wish to kill one of the valuable treasures of the empire and arrest a cadet who did nothing wrong. It is clearly stated in imperial law that all matters involving the execution of a wyvern are strictly under the purveyance of His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor. A abuse of authority? You dare. At Aegis' cold roar, the Crown Prince's eyes rolled back. If he started foaming at the mouth, it would be the perfect picture of a rabid dog. Yes, it is an abuse of authority. If I am at fault, then that is something my esteemed father and mother will decide, not the Crown Prince. Kuha-ha-ha-ha. Poltviren looked into the sky and let out an uproarious laugh. Then he suddenly unsheathed the dress sword at his hip. For a mere princess to besmirch the honor of me, the next emperor of this empire, I won't forgive you. It's dangerous. This crazy crown prince was more than capable of causing an incident. No, he would cause one and then some. I took Aegis' arm with a fluid movement and moved her behind me. Ho-ho, now a mere cadet dares to block my way. Poltviren's madness-filled eyes spewed bloodthirst at me. Please resist, Your Highness the Crown Prince. It was Marquis Mermoz, the leader of the covert and the vice-captain of the Sky Knights of the Imperial Guard. Marquis Mermoz, do not get in my way. The lunatic directed his rage towards Marquis Mermoz as well. This incident could end as a minor matter, or it could become an issue that invokes His Imperial Majesty the Emperor's wrath. Your Highness, please allay your anger. The Crown Prince trembled at the mention of the Emperor. It seemed this lunatic feared the Emperor. All right, he conceded reluctantly. However, I will not forgive this bastard. You think I'm an easy target, huh? A wyvern princess could only be held accountable with the Emperor's command, but that didn't apply to me, a normal cadet knight. Should I just beat him up? These stupid fools only knew that I was a knight, but didn't know that I was a multi-classer who could also use magic and spirits. Besides, the Crown Prince was up close and personal right now. I could send him to high heaven with my fists alone. Sir Kyr moved at my request. I just protested. Shut up. Someone who moved at your request could control a wyvern. It's even a hybrid that is said to be difficult even for a fully trained Sky Knight. It's not like I wanted to, and I didn't control him. He just moved on his own. It was really unfair, but I couldn't say anything. There weren't many people here who would believe me. Your Highness, under law, even a cadet receives pseudo-knight treatment. To arrest him without any opportunity to prove his innocence. Marquis Mermoz, I'm warning you. If you step on my authority any further, I won't forgive you either. Poltviren even showed his outrageousness to a marquis, who was no ordinary noble, but of one of the leading aristocrats of the empire. A dead silence descended on the clearing in a single moment. The words of His Highness hold a dangerous sentiment. But justice did not die easily. Irene, my Sailor Moon, who always appeared in my moment of need, Irene, came forward. I beseech you to withdraw your statement, which ignores the national law that maintains this empire. As a member of this empire's nobility, it is a statement that is difficult to accept. Instead of responding, Poltviren ground his teeth. How dare you involve yourself in this matter? Countess Irene. Other nobles came forward in the crown prince's stead. Most Sky Knights had noble peerages. Why can't she? This is a matter that involves the esteemed honor of all nobility, said Rothhello in defense of Irene. Why you? Good. Very good. It wasn't just because of me. These nobles were already fundamentally divided into factions. There were many who took the crown prince's side, and several who were standing behind Irene, and quite a few who were taking a neutral stance. How very harmonious. TSK, TSK. The moment Poltviren became emperor, this small problem today would spread everywhere in the empire. All right, I will give him a chance to prove himself. But it will be done according to the Convention for Restoring a Knight's Honor. Cuckoo. The Convention for Restoring a Knight's Honor? Be but for a regular cadet knight, too. Shut up. Then who will use their life to compensate for my honor as this empire's crown prince? At Poltviren's vicious words, even Irene closed her mouth. Is it a duel? I vividly remember the spars related to knight's honor that would show up in medieval movies. Your name is Kyre, yes? Ho-ho. Let's see if you can prove your innocence with those amazing skills of yours. You bastard. One day I will beat you to a pulp when you're off your high horse. This was no crown prince, but a mean thug, the height of debauchery. Wait a sec, a duel alone is no fun. This guy is prideful as fuck, so should I try baiting him a bit? This was something I had learned from Master Bumdaff. My thoughts whirled, quickly formulating a plan. Your Highness, if I am proven guilty, I will humbly accept the punishment. But I emphasized guilt and punishment while lowering my head. But, said Crown Prince with a dangerously low voice on the verge of blowing up. It seemed he was about to take the bait. I will make no excuses. However, the spirit of a knight is more valuable than a knight's honor, which is said to be his life. If I cause an affront to your Imperial Highness, there will be no path left for me to live. Affront? Paha. For a commoner, you sure have heard a lot about knights. So what will you do about it? Poltviren laughed and enjoyed himself. This guy is a real turnoff. No matter what, he was Budgeran's crown prince. If he became the emperor, everyone and everything in this empire would tremble. If I am defeated, I will voluntarily kill myself. However, if I happen to be victorious and am able to restore my honor, I request that you grant me a reward that matches the punishment. I went out swinging. Kill yourself? All right, if you go ahead and die on your own, I would be thankful. In any case, you were irritating to the eyes. Very much so, actually. Poltviren carelessly uttered incredibly crude words in front of other nobles, as well as knights and soldiers. He didn't know. If it continued like this, the only people left by his side would be rotten and treacherous retainers. It may be too much to ask in return for the life of this low-born knight, but please promise me in your name as the Imperial Highness the Crown Prince. All right, no matter what condition it is, I promise. There's no way you'll win anyway. Ha ha ha. Woo, I got you now. I hooked a real big fish this time. If I am victorious, please grant this hybrid wyvern to me. Cough. The hybrid wyvern. Everyone was shocked by my condition. Cries of surprise rang out all around the clearing. This mongrel? Cuckoo. It's not a difficult matter. Marquis Mermoz, can you give me this hybrid wyvern as a condition for this duel, upon which my honor is hinged? How could a mixed-race wyvern compare to the honor of the great Budgeran's crown prince himself? I'm only concerned about your honor, your Imperial Highness. Unlike before, Marquis Mermoz was acting very meek. He knew there was nothing more he could do. But I just tried to speak up. I glanced at Aegis and covertly shook my head. This had nothing to do with the princess anymore, and was now a duel between knights where one's honor was at stake. Even the Emperor could not stop it. Irene, don't look at me like that. I won't die. Irene was standing behind Aegis and staring intently at me. I didn't see a single cadet in the clearing. It seemed they were locked up in the dorms. Sir Halliday, will you wield your sword for the sake of your crown prince's honor? I will be the sword for the crown prince's honor with my life. Poltviren Schur was impatient. He called out one knight from the Imperial Guard surrounding him. Oomph, you coward. Restoring one's honor only had meaning if you did it yourself. He wasn't even a lady, but used a proxy to say this and that about honor. He's probably one of the strongest knights among the Imperial Guard. This was a knight of the Imperial Guard protecting a crown prince who would become the next emperor. If he was strong enough to be called upon now, he was surely a master at least. I can't even use magic or spirits. What a shame. I hadn't yet revealed my true skills. If I revealed them here, I might be mistaken as a spy. Countess Irene, may I borrow your sword? Irene only nodded and gravely passed over her long sword. With everyone here as my witness, I humbly submit myself to this duel of honor. I pointed my sword at the man named Halliday, but my eyes were facing the crown prince. You unlucky bastard, I thought. I permitted, uttered the crown prince with a false pretense of solemnity. Babetto, look well. Look carefully at your master's struggle for your freedom. Babetto was watching over everything with his golden eyes. To prevent his escape, dozens of blessed spears were pointed at him from all directions. The sturdily built Halliday unsheathed his sword with the hiss of steel. Blue aura flowed from his blade. I pointed Irene's long sword at his heart. You're going down. Huh. As soon as I took position, Halliday didn't even give me the first move and came rushing forward. HNG. I snorted inwardly and drew my mana. Blue mana flowed from my sword. Every cell in my body quivered with readiness. And then I swung to meet my enemy's lateral blow. Kyre. She was a princess of the Budran Empire, but Aegis had never experienced such humiliation and agitation all at once. She knew her elder brother was furious, but she didn't think he would go as far as to strike her. Since her birth, she had never been hit by anyone before, much less in front of countless nobles, knights, and soldiers. She wanted to cry. If the emperor was here, she would have wanted to wail and cry. But the position of a princess was a noble one where you could not even cry as you wished. So I just clenched her teeth and swallowed her rage. And she silently watched Poltviren's ugly actions. Her half-brother directed his anger, which could not be vented on Aegis, towards the cadet knight, Kyre. How could it be Sir Halliday, who will soon become a master? Aegis had heard of Halliday as well. He was a guard knight who had the utmost faith in the crown prince. As a knight of the Imperial Guard who had nearly reached the master stage in his mid-30s, he was the subject of rumors within the Imperial family. The moment Poltviren ascended to the throne, Halliday would surely be granted leadership of the knights. With such a knight as his foe, Kyre was caught in a duel where his life was at stake. However, he didn't show any fear. Even in front of the crown prince and all the knights, he was impossibly confident. He was standing in front of Aegis with his sword drawn. O goddess of victory, Ormian, I beg of you to grant victory to that knight. Aegis gathered her hands and prayed to the goddess of victory. Oop! Even before her prayer was complete, the two people collided, their sharp swords billowing with blue light aiming for each other's lives. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As the steel met steel, the sharp ring of metal burst out in the clearing. Oop! Mana fragments splattered like sparks in all directions, and the aura of the two people dueling made everyone watching hurriedly retreat. The swords traced clear shadows under the light of the magic lamps. Most people here were Sky Knights with a certain degree of skill, but the outrageous duel before them made their palms sweat. It was fast. Leaving the hiss of a sword cutting through air, one sword would approach the other's neck, and the defender would reflect that attack and immediately move into an attack aiming for the opponent's waist. The two duelers exchanged a flurry of attacks. Several Sky Knights and Knights began to tremble, thinking about what would have happened if they had come forward to duel. And at the same time, they were surprised. Everyone at the covert knew of the Crown Prince's right hand, Baron Halliday. Born as the son of a knight, Halliday was a devotee of the sword who earned his position as a baron with his skills alone. He may not be a Sky Knight, but everyone knew his skills were not inferior in any way and that the Crown Prince had full confidence in him. A mere cadet knight was on the other side of that Halliday's sword. Everyone's gazes turned towards this young rookie who had spoken of honor in front of the crown prince, the black-haired cadet named Kyre. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Babam. He's strong. There was a reason why Halliday was the crown prince's proxy. He left no openings. He matched me in force, speed, and even mana. His transition into offensive maneuvers was rapid, and his sword struck at me like a viper aiming for my openings. If I mess up, I could lose. I focused and returned each and every blow. His blade was shrouded in blue light. If I got hit, I would be sent directly to the River Thames. You're quite good. After throwing 10 or so attacks at me, Halliday leisurely retreated and uttered some words of praise. You too, Tien said in English. After I replied in brief English, Halliday showed a moment of doubt, but then his face flushed red. He must have thought I was insulting him. He wanted to finish it. The end of the duel was nigh. The knight poured a bunch of mana into his sword, as if preparing for a finishing blow. I began to wonder if I should use magic or spirits. That's right. At that moment, a certain scene flashed in my mind. Let's give it a try. The idea in my head was the master arts used by the mad dog Count Caldane. I had repeated that art in my head countless times after experiencing it. I hadn't had much time to practice magic or sword skills since then, but I used magic to practice countless imaginary battles in my head every night before bed. Thanks to those efforts, I was confident that I could freely wield my sword as well as fifth circle magic. Lately, I had completed the theoretical understanding of Count Caldan's move. The illusionary sword art, Snake Phantom. What have I got to lose? I had nothing to fear. Thankfully, there were no high-level mages around. If it came down to it, I could use magic and spirits to escape. I urgently drew my mana and poured it into my sword. I have to make a physical mana sword. Not just an illusion, but a mana sword with actual physical form. I couldn't conjure 5 or 6 like the Count, but I was confident I could manage 2 or 3 of them. Theoretically, it wasn't as hard as I thought. Oop! Halliday came running over. This guy also. My opponent's sword rushed towards me, leaving a fan-shaped wave in its wake. It was sloppy, but it emitted the traces of an illusionary sword made by a master. Break it apart. I sent my will to my mana-charged sword, pouring in all my rage towards those who wanted to suppress and destroy me. The sword trembled as I filled it inch by inch with mana, expending every bit of my will and might. Whoa! Mana shadow! The spectating knights burst out with surprised cries. It's done. It took all my strength to produce just 3 mana shadows. One of them was even incomplete. But bababam! Gay! The mana shadows were illusionary, but as the first one collided with Halliday's sword, the powerful impact traveled up my arm. The second shadow, sword, crashed in and shattered at Halliday's defense. After blocking the unexpected attack with great difficulty, Halliday let out a cry of surprise. An opening. After blocking the second shadow, Halliday noticed the half-made shadow sword late and hastened to defend. The moment he raised his sword to block it, it was like a hole was opened in an impregnable fort. Papo! Arg! 3 different sounds rang out at the same time. As Halliday narrowly reflected the third shadow, sword with a clang, my sword snaked into the opening and buried itself into his right abdomen with a wet sound, and Halliday screamed. Everything happened simultaneously. It was hard to tell which came first. With a clatter, Halliday's sword fell to the stone ground. Seek all the priest. How can this be? The cadet knight won. The knights were in utter disbelief. I nonchalantly picked up his sword. This was a duel with our lives on the line. Taking the opponent's sword was the victor's right. Heal. The mages among the Sky Knights ran over and cast heal. The injury was caused by mana, so unlike normal sword injuries, if treatment was not provided right away, the person could die. At the defeat of a knight he had believed in, Poltviren screamed with rage. His injured honor was more important than consideration for his injured knight. I was able to win because of Sir Halliday's mercy. Holding my sword, I extended a knight's courtesy towards Halliday, whose eyes were twisted in pain. I lost. Heal had stopped the bleeding, but Halliday was surely still in a lot of pain. However, he managed to retain his pride as a knight and admitted his defeat without collapsing. The crown prince glared coldly at Halliday, then snorted and turned away. Where do you think you're going? I wasn't one to send him away just like this. I sincerely thank your highness the crown prince, who has granted me this wyvern. I will do my utmost to assist the Empire and His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor. It didn't cost money to lie. I bowed my head and sincerely gave my thanks to the Crown Prince, who had turned and was leaving. Sir Kyre, Yua, what kind of jackpot is this? Princess Aegis, who had been watching the duel with bated breath, ran over and suddenly hugged me. As she did so, male knights who had been utterly surprised began to shoot lasers from their eyes at me. And the female knights were the opposite. Their eyes were full of emotion. The popularity of this guy is... Ooh-ah-ha. Somehow, I ended up in the flowery embrace of a beautiful lady. My expression was one of surprise, but inside I was laughing with joy. Irene, at least, until I met eyes with one woman, who was looking at me strangely. Chapter 35, Becoming a Noble. Translator, Lay. Is it true? What is that you won in a duel with a knight of the Imperial Guard and became a Sky Knight? Screamed Russell loud enough to shake the room. Oh, that? It turned out like that, yeah. I rubbed my ear, acting like it wasn't a big deal. Kyre. Russell grabbed me in an embrace. Why are there so many people wanting to hug me today? After the stormy duel ended, I was brought into the warm embrace of the Imperial Princess. Without realizing what kind of impact her actions had, I just hugged me, and everyone shot startled gazes at me, forcing me to quickly escape her hug. As the male knights glared fiercely at me, I was truly able to experience how adored Aegis was by the knights of the Empire. Ooh, now Babetto belongs to me. Ooh. The Crown Prince had turned and left, but Marquis Mermoz stayed to give me formal ownership of Babetto. You're amazing, really amazing. Even though Russell would have to give up on his dream of becoming a Sky Knight if he failed the upcoming third and last flight test, he was sincerely happy for me, as if it was his own matter. But seriously, why do I feel so happy to get hugged by this guy? I had shed my armor and changed into the regular cadet outfit. As Russell hugged me, coming up only to my chin, I felt my breath becoming ragged. My body began to heat up with an itchy sensation. No, I don't like men. In these last few months with Russell, he had really challenged my sexuality. His freshly bathed skin was plump, and the red lips I felt at my chest when he spoke gave off a faint fragrance. If he was next to me, I felt the impulse to fool around and hug him or at least grab his hand, but I firmly resisted the temptation. I was already 18, an age where I knew everything I should, and then some. I didn't want to betray the pure heart of a man with someone of the same sex. Russell, what's with you today? Feeling strange, I tried to break away from Russell. In that moment, I saw clear droplets falling from his eyes. What the he's crying? Ichenji. These days, Russell spent a lot of time crying like a girl. Clearly distraught, he buried his face into my chest and cried. All right, there are times when a guy wants to cry, too, I thought with sympathy. Russell had an indispensable reason why he needed to become a Sky Knight. He was surely disappointed in himself for becoming so fearful every time he tried to ride a wyvern. Thank you. You at least will become a Sky Knight. Russell. For the first time, I heard Russell's innermost feelings. His words made my chest sting. There was almost a woman's ardency as she worried about someone she loved in his voice. All right, friend. I'll guide you. Even if I couldn't guide my people to a place running with milk and honey like Moses, I wanted to help my friend find hope again. That would be my first gift as a Sky Knight. Chin up. I gently embraced the crying Russell. This was the only thing I could do for him right now. This is nice. As I did so, I once again felt that Russell's small hug was really very comfortable. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. So what should I do now? Babetto became my wyvern, but I was clueless on wyvern feeding and care. I didn't have a ground crew like the other Sky Knights, and because I hadn't formally received a peerage yet, my social status was unclear. Why is everyone giving me so much side-eye? That was another problem. All the males were glowering at me with provocative glances. It wasn't just Sky Knights, but crewmates and soldiers as well. As soon as they saw me, they would whisper amongst themselves and shoot daggers at me with their eyes. I'm targeted by the Crown Prince, and because of Aegis, even the Sky Knights are excluding me. What a great start. I had no desire to live my life comfortably anyway. A hero of the ages had to overcome diversity and hardship. That was the future in store for me. Babetto, you brat, shall we give you a bath? Even if I didn't have a crewmate, there were many things I had to do for Babetto. I wanted to clean up his dirty hanger and scrub away the years of neglect on his body. The weather sure is great. It was a typical spring day. The hillside around the covert was lush with green leaves and flowers whose names I didn't know. It was perfect weather to pack lunch and go on a picnic. I appreciated the marvels of spring as I walked towards Babetto's secluded hangar. Babetto belonged to me now. Last night, I had definitely closed the hangar door before returning to the dorms, but the door was currently wide open. And it wasn't just that. A huge cloud of dust was getting swept out of the hangar. Someone was definitely sweeping. Who is it? Without my permission. Part of me was thankful, but I felt a surge of anger knowing someone had touched the hangar without my permission. Who is it? Who dares? I quickly ran inside and just as quickly shut my mouth, my anger dissipating. Derval. Aegis, who was supposed to return to the palace today, was sweating as she swept the ground, and the helpless Derval was staring at the princess with a nervous expression. Princess. Ho-ho, Kyrnim, it's a beautiful morning. Aegis had surely never held a broomstick or rag in her life. But now, she was rather skillfully gathering up the dust and sweeping the ground. Her refined face was sooty with sweat and dust as she threw a happy smile my way. I tried to stop her, but when I turned to Derval, he stammered out an excuse. It seemed even he did not believe that an imperial princess who could even become an empress was personally pulling up her sleeves to sweep and scrub. Please hand those over. If others were to find out about this, I will die. I was already the enemy of all men after the princess sneak attack last night. If the fact that the princess had personally cleaned a dirty hangar got out, I might become the victim of terrorism. It's all right. I wanted to do at least this much for Babetto. Having escaped his steel shackles, Babetto was blinking his golden eyes as he watched the princess cleaning his hangar with satisfaction. I just isn't your servant. Oi, I retorted inwardly, flailing an imaginary fist at this cheeky brat. He was now my wyvern, but he clearly needed some education. I decided to give him some special education in the near future. Please give those to me. Even so, for the princess to do such a thing is... Oh my! In my hurry to grab the wooden broomstick, I accidentally ended up grabbing Aegis' hand as she tried to dodge. Lucky grab. Aegis' face instantly reddened. I couldn't understand how a princess, of all people, could be like this. A swarm of attendants would run over at her beck and call, but Aegis was doing manual labor with a kind heart. Her warm consideration traveled up my hand, right into my heart. Ahem, Derval coughed, having long become a bronze statue. I have a major in sweeping and a minor in mopping, I said smoothly in order to prevent Aegis from feeling humiliated. I took the broom from her hands and began to energetically sweep the dusty floor. PFT, ho ho ho. And my servant Y actions, Aegis covered her mouth and laughed. The stuffy, dusty hangar was lit up by her radiance. Princess. With clattering footsteps, the Imperial Knights ran towards the hangar with blanched faces. They probably got scolded until their ears fell off yesterday. Your poor sops, you've got your hands full with a single princess. From the looks of it, Aegis had probably snuck away this morning as well without any word. I apologize, she said with her head bowed towards the Imperial Guard Knights who were running over with pale faces. Her graceful courtesy was truly beautiful to witness. His Highness the Crown Prince is waiting. Dipping his head immediately in response to Aegis' apology, the Imperial Knight respectfully asked Aegis to depart. Kyrnim, you'll come if I invite you to the palace, right? Invite. Most people live their whole lives without being able to see the inner palace where the Imperial family lived. My ears perked right up. Of course, if you invite me, Your Highness, I will happily come running post-haste. How could I possibly refuse? I hear the palace cooking is killer. Ho ho. There were widespread rumors among the cadet knights who had visited the palace about the incredible cooking there. I also want to try it once. Then, Princess Aegis gracefully lowered her head. I hurried to bow lower than her. Babetto be well. I'll miss you, murmured Aegis, her voice wet with tears. Go. Babetto gave her a careful farewell as well. Then, Aegis left, surrounded by Imperial Guard Knights. What a shame, damn. Only once I was watching her retreating back did my heart start to ache. Seeing the darling Princess Aegis after this would be hard for the time being. The short but sweet memories I had shared with her lately passed through my mind like a film loop. But wait, why is Derval here? Derval had suffered harsh advice from me. In just a few days, the rough and depressed demeanor I was familiar with flew off to who knows where, transforming into a bright smile. Please take me on. I will entrust my dreams and hopes on you, Sir Kyr. After turning away from Aegis, Derval fell to his knees. The immature pride he had flared at me before was nowhere to be seen. Why? I couldn't just accept him like this. Didn't you tell me that when you live, there will be a day when the sun rises? Sir Kyre, please be that sun for me. Derval cried passionately, his voice thick with sincerity. Go. I get it. Catching on quickly, Babetto voiced his opinion. Can you do well? Even though Babetto and I are in a tough position. If it's you, Sir Kyre, you will overcome everything. That confidence and skill to restore your honor, even in front of the crown prince himself. I, Derval, am merely showing my respect towards that courage. It seemed Derval had also heard what happened last night. All right, if that's how you truly feel, I will take you on. However, I trailed off and stared deeply into Derval's passionate eyes. Don't stab me in the back. I hate people who betray my trust the most. With a painful sounding thump, Derval kowtowed into the ground. I will serve you, Sir Kyre, with my very life. Just give me about half of your life. If you do that, I'll take care of your marriage, house, and honor. I first learned that it wasn't easy to take responsibility for someone in my kindergarten first love. A little girl named Lee Suli had always followed me around. When it came time to part ways on graduation day, I cried and threw a fit, refusing to say goodbye. In the end, I was given a scolding by my mother. The moment you take responsibility for Lee Suli, you won't be able to buy a single one of those Yu-Gi-Oh cards you like so much. You'll have to share the one package of snacks you get every day, and you won't be able to sleep the way you want at night, she warned sternly. That's when I realized taking responsibility for another life was only possible for a pure saint who could share what was his. That being said, Derval was a man, not a woman. And now I was already old enough to buy as many Yu-Gi-Oh cards as I wanted. I decided to take in Derval with an open mind. This guy poops a lot too, so this is good. Of course, I wasn't just taking him in because I didn't want to take care of Babetto's king-sized poops or a huge appetite. Okay, that's that, but what do we have to do now? Pardon? I was entrusted with Babetto on the fly, but I'm not formally a Sky Knight, yet it's an awkward position. I was also worried about becoming the Crown Prince's target. The moment his pride fell apart, he had pierced me with bloodthirsty eyes. I was sure that all hell would break loose as soon as he found fault with me. I heard that you have been recognized by His Highness the Crown Prince and His Excellency, Covert Commander Mermos. Is that true? Derval's eyes gleamed. Yeah. If so, please go to His Excellency the Marquis and receive the Sky Knight formal letter of appointment. You don't need to receive the peerage now, but you can only be formally distributed goods in the covert if you have a formal letter of appointment. Is that so? Oh, it's good I have him. I was confident I wouldn't lose in a head-on fight, but all the little odds and ends made my head hurt. It's especially important for Babetto, because as a hybrid wyvern, the other Sky Knights and wyverns will be on guard against him. But can you tell me why a hybrid wyvern is treated like that? If it were me, I would put more value on such an outstanding hybrid wyvern. Of course, it isn't as if empires and kingdoms haven't thought that. But wyverns simply do not interbreed. That is why only 1 in 1,000 or 10,000 wyverns are hybrids. Because the chance is so low and because humans cannot curtail the uncertainty and rage wyverns have toward hybrids, everyone gave up on producing them. Once a hybrid wyvern appears on the battlefield, other wyverns see red, and the number 1 target is the hybrid wyvern. You probably know this already, but that is why hybrid wyverns have been historically called cursed wyverns. Derval laid out the most important points in more detail than I just. I nodded. In conclusion, there's no problem as long as you're strong enough to repel all the wyverns charging in. The solution was simple, but the problem was whether you had the skills to survive under concentrated fire. If I get the formal letter of appointment, can Babetto and I get armor? About that, I'm not sure. There hasn't been such an extraordinary appointment until now, said Derval with a severe expression. Okay, let's end things here then. I should go get the formal letter of appointment for now and register you as my exclusive crewmate, Derval. That's correct. That should be the only thing you need to do today, sir. As for the rest, an order should be issued from the superiors. An order? If I'm correct, I believe we won't be able to stay here for much longer. Derval's speculation made me hum in thought. Actually, the same thought had occurred to me. No one would want to work or fly with a cursed wyvern that could bring misfortune on you with a single glance, and after becoming the Crown Prince's target, no Sky Knight would want to be in the same team as us. It might be possible if it was Countess Irene, though. But when do I get the peerage and territory? Pardon? Territory, Derval repeated dumbly. Aren't Sky Knights supposed to get a peerage and territory? Sigh. Derval made a pitying expression along with a deep sigh. What is that wrong? I thought, puzzled by his reaction. Sir Kyre, are you really a Sky Knight cadet? Asked Derval. Yeah, I am. Then why do you ask about a territory? How could there be any more land in the Empire to distribute among the nobility? Wait, then are all the Sky Knights here nobles without any territory? Of course they have a peerage and territory. The problem is, Derval stopped and stared at me, as if asking, do you really not know? After seeing my blank look and confirming that I really had no clue, he continued. They have appointed peerages and designated grants from imperial territory. I understand appointed peerages, but what's the designated grant thing? What does designated grant mean exactly? As you may know, territories owned by His Imperial Majesty the Emperor's family are larger and more extensive than any other territory in the Empire. About 1/5 of the Empire's land is under the possession of His Imperial Majesty. A set amount is taken from the taxes collected from the Emperor's territories and granted to soldiers serving the Emperor or Sky Knights affiliated with the Imperial family according to their titles. Typically, a Baron will receive around 20,000 gold per year. What, really? 20,000 gold? Just catching tuna or demon beasts would net you more than that. Sky Knights were treated more stingily than I expected. However, that is not a small sum if you consider the price of the defensive arms and daily goods that wyverns consume, as well as the price of items distributed to Sky Knights. I understood that 20,000 gold was no small sum, but the problem was I didn't like the sound of it at all. Is there no way to receive a peerage and territory at the same time? Of course there is. Oh, what is it? One must become a war hero. If an enemy empire or kingdom's territory is seized, then you can receive a territory like that. Another way is if you achieve a truly amazing feat and receive the favor of His Imperial Majesty the Emperor. You may be granted a part of his territory and become an independent noble. So you have to receive the Emperor's favor. I fell into deep thought. From what I heard, the atmosphere on the continent wasn't good, but there was probably no one stupid enough to pick a one-on-one fight with the Budran Empire. I do need a territory, and a big one at that. I mused, my thoughts becoming muddy with complicated matters. Whatever, let's just get the formal letter of appointment for now. Tomorrow's problems can wait for tomorrow. A child who could barely count wouldn't be able to do differentials or calculus in a single day. I decided to walk forward steadily step by step, or rather, 2 steps at a time. Digesting the huge boon I had just swallowed came first and foremost. Marquis Mermoz. I left the hangar with brisk steps. Marquis Mermoz definitely had a favorable impression of me. The issue was, how could I strip the most benefits possible from him? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Reaper scans. Translator. Lay. Join our Discord for updates. https://discord.gg/sb2jqkv. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Right, a Marquis should enjoy this much luxury at least. I had gone sightseeing all over the covert, but I hadn't yet gone inside the 4-story stone building where the Marquis was staying. It wasn't because the knights on guard at the front gates were wearing severe expressions, but because there was a lot to see elsewhere. So this was my first time seeing the covert headquarters up close and personal. Sculptures and works of art that didn't lose to the ones in the inner palace were adorning the walls. Knock knock. Your Excellency, the Cadet Kyre has requested to see you. The knight who escorted me knocked on the door and informed the Marquis of my arrival. Come in, said the Marquis with a dignified voice. With a click, the knight opened up the door. I greet the commander. In front of me sat Marquis Mermoz, the vice-captain of the Imperial Guard Sky Knights and the commander of Kerphone Covert. He was an elderly man with a head of neat white hair. On his face was the same kindly smile that I had seen at the entrance exam. Sit down. It's simple. Unlike the decorations outside, the Marquis office was austerely decorated. There was a large painting of a black wyvern flying in the sky, as well as a luxurious-looking airplate. Formal merits hung on the wall. There was also an antique desk and a well-used leather chair. The atmosphere suited the gentlemanly Marquis very well. Would you like a cup of tea? Tea to start. The Marquis himself was pouring tea from a flowery teapot atop a magic stove on one side of the office. As expected of a high-ranking noble, it seemed that magic items were used for convenience. I will gladly have a drink. This is Sci-fi tea from the Littor Mountains. I often drink it before a flight for its light and clean taste. Marquis Mermoz explained the tea to me like a friendly neighborhood grandpa and not like a noble. As he poured the tea, I was able to pinpoint the identity of the faint fragrance I had detected when I came inside. The Sci-fi tea, which looked like black tea, flowed into a white teacup with a gilded edge. Have you come because of the letter of appointment? Pardon? Yes, that's right. The next moment, Marquis guessed my reason for coming. A letter of appointment is within my ability to grant. However, you will not be able to receive a formal peerage, he said frankly while quietly drinking tea. A formal peerage can only be granted by His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor. I knew that too, but the problem was that there were no Sky Knights on the continent who didn't have a peerage. There might be some unaffiliated pirates, but it was definitely an unusual case. Life looks very simple, but it's actually quite hard. In particular, once you become a noble, you cannot escape from your political obligations. As my senior in life, Marquis Mermoz advised me as he laid down his political viewpoint. I could only accept his words. He may be a high-ranking marquis of the empire, but even he wouldn't want to step too far out of line with the next emperor, the crown prince. However, for a Sky Knight to possess a normal knight identity is also laughable. Because of you, I was forced to think of complicated matters and couldn't sleep well last night. A high noble was someone who could kill a commoner for simply looking at them wrong if they were in a bad mood. I felt a little bad knowing the Marquis had slept poorly last night because of me. What kinds of thoughts drove you to become a Sky Knight? With skills like yours, you could most certainly live without problems as a regular knight. Because it's cool. Cool? Is that really the only reason? To be honest with you, sir, you can earn money and honor with it as well. So shouldn't any man challenge it once in their lifetime? Money, honor? Haha, you're a funny fellow. It must be surprising that someone could reveal their honest thoughts to a marquis who is called Your Excellency by everyone. As I offer my innermost thoughts without hesitation, the marquis let out a good-natured laugh. But it's a real shame. You have angered the one person you shouldn't have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't? Why not? The marquis asked, once again at a loss for words. The world is bigger than one might think. Isn't that true? Those words. Do you mean to say it doesn't have to be this empire? I wonder. I vacillated with a smile. I have been closely following you. The person who confidently talked back to Marquis Kerman when we first met, said the Marquis. It seems your relationship with noble heirs at the academy is very poor. He's done his research. You're a dangerous fellow. Despite being a commoner, you have absolutely no fear towards nobles, and you also have no sense of loyalty towards the empire or the imperial family. The Marquis was a good judge of character. For such a person to become a Sky Knight, what choice would you make if you were me or a noble of the empire? What use is it to ask a question like that? Geez, I would educate him well and turn him into a righteous and heroic Sky Knight loyal to the imperial family, I said smoothly, hiding my true thoughts. Heh, a heroic Sky Knight with deep loyalty. Marquis Mermoz let out a small laugh. I will grant you a peerage as well as a title, Eidolon, which carries a meaning of blessing. Huh? A peerage and title? Something very unexpected came out of the Marquis' mouth. I would have no words of opposition even if he were to chase Babetto and me out, but now he was even granting me a peerage. Only, it is not a formal peerage with a designated grant that only the Emperor can give, but a baronet peerage of appointment that I, a Marquis, can give. Baronet? Geez, a Viscount is already low enough. So what's this about a baronet? If you become a Sky Knight with a Cadet Knight status, it could confuse the existing order of rank, but it would be excessive to grant a formal peerage to a person whose skills and loyalty have not yet been confirmed. With that in mind, know that this is the best I can offer within my ability. The brevity had completely disappeared from the Marquis' face, replaced by utter seriousness. He really loves the Empire. The Marquis was emanating a spirit of integrity that could only come from a loyal citizen. Thank you for your consideration. There was no reason to refuse. A baronet title was still much better than a Cadet Knight. I should just be satisfied that it was a step above a knight. Phew, it's really hard to level up. Becoming a noble was harder than leveling up in a game. I had a wyvern and a peerage, but I still had a long road ahead of me. Because you lack a formal peerage granted by His Imperial Majesty the Emperor, you cannot be distributed magic armor for your wyvern or an airplate. If you have the skills, take care of those on your own. They cost more than a few cents, though. Despite my grumbling, I fully understood the Marquis. This was the utmost he could do for me, considering my relationship with the Crown Prince. I understand. I will settle that on my own. However, please allow me to take on a crewmate for Babetto's maintenance. A crewmate, you say? I would like to, But as you may know, crewmates are also paid by a portion of the designated grant. Wow, this is so stingy, I muttered to myself. Please let me have the crewmate named Derval. Derval? Oh, you have more ability than your outward appearance suggests. He may be missing an arm, but I'm surprised you know about Derval, who graduated top of his class in the Empire Administration Academy. Top of his class? He's that smart. Unlike nobles born with silver spoons, a commoner could only win with their smarts and skills. If he graduated from the top of his class at a place like that, he was undoubtedly a genius. All right, he was about to be discharged anyway, so I will give him to you. Why do I feel so crappy even though I'm getting what I want? At the marquee, ungrudging goodwill, I lower my head. Thank you very much. This is a noble letter of appointment, signifying the baronet status. It is merely an appointed peerage, but nobles from baronets upwards receive noble respect in accordance with common law. Become a model noble, devoting loyalty to your empire. I'm finally a noble. Oh, haha. Finally, I had joined the much-dreamed-of ranks of nobility. It was the lowest rank of noble, which left much to be desired, but it was still a step above knights. From today onwards, I would be living as a noble, even if it was just a baronet title. I will do my best to fulfill obligations as a noble, depending on how it goes. Hoo-hoo-hoo. I would only treat them well if they treated me with respect. Before I forget, you can fly at will. Just avoid the areas marked as no-fly zones. It can't be preferential treatment just for me. So why? Why only me? It is my final act of consideration. Learn the art of flying as fast as you can. I will assign a flight instructor to you. Final consideration? What with the look in his eyes? Marquis Murmo's eyes were filled with regret and bitterness. At that moment, I knew that the Marquis knew something he could not disclose.